Hello and welcome to another Foundry VTT tutorial for the One Ring 2nd Edition role-playing game. Today I want to go over councils and how they can run on Foundry but also at your tabletop game. So a council is a formal meeting. This isn't just negotiating with an NPC in a tavern over the price of ale. This is doing something where the stakes are high. Negotiating passage through a gap of land that's controlled by someone else that may not be open to all. That sort of thing. There's a few steps that the lore master will do. First and foremost is to determine the resistance, and it's either going to be 3, 6, or 9. The resistance means how many successes must be achieved by the players within the time limit. So if it's a reasonable request, let's say you want to gain passage through the Gap of Rohan and the Riders of the Mark, you have to negotiate that. And if it's a time of war, that may be a bold or an outrageous request. But if it's a time of peace, it might be reasonable or perhaps bold, depending on how the lore master wants the game to go. Let's say that it is a reasonable request. The next thing that takes place is the introduction, and the company will choose one player to present the case. And it's going to use one of 3 skills, either awe, courtesy, or riddle. And this will determine the time limit. Now, depending on what printing of the book you have, this is going to be different. In earlier versions, 1st and 2nd printing, the time limit was stated as the resistance value. If you succeeded, your time limit was the resistance value plus 1 for every Tengwar, every special success that was rolled. Once Ruins of the Lost Realms came out, there was kind of a harder mode, and then that has since been adopted into the 3rd printing of the core book, and that is that the time limit will be 4 plus 1 for every icon rolled. So if it's an outrageous request and the resistance is 9, it's not going to be 9 plus 1 for every success. It's going to be 4 plus 1, which makes it that much more difficult. If you fail this introduction roll, the time limit is 3. And then if you do not get the successes, then this will end in a disaster. Once the time limit has been established and you have the resistance, what comes next is the interaction. And during this part, all of the players can take part. And they can use different social skills. Enhearten, Insight, Persuade, Riddle, and Song are good ones. But that's not to say you couldn't use others like Awe or Battle or anything that might give good reason why you would have this council. Now, I definitely encourage the players to not just say, "Oh, I'm making an Enhearten roll." It's like, no, tell me what you're doing. How are you trying to implore these Riders of the Mark to allow you to pass? And then once that has been established, and if they give a really good reason, that even states in the book that if there's a good reason, good role playing, you can give a bonus. Now, if the folk encountered are reluctant, you will lose 1 die on this roll. If it's a good speech, you can gain 1 or even 2 bonuses. So let's assume that we have this negotiation between our company and the Riders of Rohan, trying to get passage through here. So first, let's have Drogo make our introduction roll, and he can use awe, courtesy, or riddle. Now, he's really good at courtesy. Riddle is not bad. Awe is not so great. His target number is really high, so we're going to do a courtesy roll. Now, we click on the courtesy skill, and it brings up the roll table. Now, Drogo could use hope on this. And not just using hope, but he might use a distinctive feature. And so his distinctive feature, he has honorable. And if he is using his courtesy, perhaps he is indeed being honorable, or calling upon his honorable nature in order to extend this courtesy to the riders. And so he might say something like, "Brave Riders of the Mark, we have traveled long and far and wish to to see the land here and to gaze upon its wonders, and we humbly ask you to allow us as weary travelers to see these magnificent sights, that we may return and tell our people of these wondrous lands. If you want to add a point of hope, you just click on the box that says Hope Point Bonus Die. And if I'm using my honorable distinctive feature, the Lore Master may let you click on the Inspired box. Now you'll know when you've done this right, because on the role characteristics it will tell you it is inspired. If you don't click that, it won't count. So you want to make sure that you click that. And then if there's any bonus or penalty dies, and let's say that there are no bonus or penalty here, we just make the roll. And so this is our time limit. And so it was a success, which is wonderful. It was a great success. So not only did we achieve a success, but we got a 6, we got a tenguar. And so if we look at the table here, if we get a success, that's going to be 4 plus 1 for every tenguar icon rolled. So now we have 5 attempts to try and get our reasonable request satisfied. So now the rest of the party, or Drogo as well, will have 5 rolls to try and get those 3 successes. Well, up first, let's say that we call upon the elf Lothariel. And Lothariel can look and say, well, what social skills do I have that would be useful here? Most of Lothariel's skills in the social regard, in Hearten is okay. Insight is not great. I'm looking at the target number. We're probably better off trying to focus on wits. And stealth is really not going to help, but maybe lore. Now, this is not one of the social skills, but let's say Lothariel talks of the lore of these lands and of Helm Hammerhand, and calls upon the memory of Helm, and wishes to see these magnificent places. And the lore master may say, yeah, go ahead. And Lothariel may look at distinctive features and say, well, there's really nothing I could maybe use here, so if I use hope, I'm probably not going to be inspired, so we'll just do a straight roll. So again, you just click on the skill. It's a straight roll. And Lothariel gets a success. There's no additional successes, no 6s, so that's 1 success. We have 5 attempts, we've used 1, and we have 1 of our successes. We only need to get 2 more in the next 4 rolls. So, not to be outdone, Blaine Stonefoe, the dwarf, says, well, I can do this as well. And Blaine maybe looks at his character sheet and says, well, I'm not good at insight, I'm not good at riddle, I'm not particularly good at song, what could I use? And maybe he might call upon his sense of awe, and might say, and might implore, the riders to say, here I am, a dwarf from the mountains. I have never seen these lands, and the lands I see are dark, but your land is beautiful and bright, and I would craft something magnificent. And he might show some of the carvings that he has made, maybe even making an offering of that. Now, as lore master, I might say that's kind of pushing it. So I'm going to impose a penalty die on the roll, because maybe the riders are not swayed by this. And so then Blaine might say, well, I'm going to spend hope, and I don't want to be stern, but maybe I'm cunning. And I might say, I don't think that's really cunning, but go ahead and spend hope. So they'll spend a point of hope. They do not become inspired, and we make the roll. And Blaine gets a success. So now we have 2 successes. We only need 3, and we've got 3 more attempts. It looks like the company is well on the way to having success here. So up next, let's say that Rathar of the Red Shield, he's going to try his hand at this, and he is going to try a song. He knows a song of these lands, of the Horse Lords, and will call upon his skill with songs, and he has a distinctive feature of folklore, and perhaps he uses that. He says, well, I'm going to sing a song of Helm Hammerhand that has been passed down to my people. And he can spend hope, can become inspired, and will make the roll. Well, he got a Gandalf rune. Automatic success. So there we have our 3 successes within the time limit. The Riders of the Mark will allow the company to pass through. Now, had they not gotten those successes, let's see what happens as consequences. Let's say they had to get 3 successes and the introduction was failed. Or excuse me, the introduction was successful, but we did not get those 3 successes. That would count as a failure or a success with woe. So if they fail to match or beat the resistance rating, they can choose to simply fail and be refused, or they can opt to achieve their goal but at a price. And so perhaps the riders will allow them to travel through the land, but they have an ask. And they ask the company, before we grant you access through the gap, we have need of stout-hearted folk like yourself. There is a troublemaker in this, place off to the south that has been stirring up the people into rebellion, and we would go to put it down, but we sense that perhaps you might have better luck rather than seeing us come and crush this and endanger our relationship with the neighbors to the south. Perhaps you can go and do this for us. And so now the company has an additional task to do. That would be a success with woe. Let's say that they get no successes. So they pass on the introduction, but they get no successes. That's a disaster. Or if they fail on the introduction and don't pass, that is also a disaster. So now the riders are openly against the company, and they are seen as a threat, and they may imprison them and say that they are trespassers, and they may take them back with them, and now the company finds themselves in fetters. This is how the councils will work. It is an excellent mini game within the game, and some of my favorite moments have been in councils. Rather than just role-playing it out, you get to role-play it using the dice, using these mechanics, and using the game engine in order to drive the narrative forward. I hope that this has been helpful. If there's any other thing that you would like to see for the One Ring as regarding a small tutorial or specifically for Foundry, please let me know. I'd love to get more videos up. Whatever people want to see is what I want to post. So definitely like, subscribe, and leave comments and let me know what you might like to see next. And I will see you soon.